This content is for informational purposes only. You should not construe any such information or other material as legal, tax, investment, financial, or other advice. Nothing contained on here constitutes a solicitation, recommendation, endorsement, or offer by Draper Goren Holm or any third-party service provider to buy or sell any securities or other financial instruments whatsoever.
Hey everyone, it is me. We are here. Joseph is here too. Say hi, Joseph.
Hey, what's up?
Boom, boom, boom. We're recording.
Good morning, everyone. Hey everyone.
Hey, everyone.
Hey everyone.
Hey, everyone.
I am recording this on the computer now.
Hey everyone.
Hey, everyone.
Hey, everyone.
Hey everyone.
Boom. All right. It says it's recording. Boom, 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 boom. I am apparently recording.
The entire bottle of control. They're all exactly the same.
Crypto art, and then what it really is an NFT.
Wow. Eddie wants to slap the bag.
So this is the next best thing.
DeFi is going to be a bubble.
It's provably scarce.
With Mad Dog.
Crypto, gold, and silver.
Transparent substance.
Take my money, start a war with it.
Without further ado,
Cheers to you, brother.
get shit on.
Because the system has to collapse before that.
My Corona. Cheers. I feel much better now.
Cheers.
Wow, that was heavy.
Boom. I literally was in another tab. I'm watching like the chat on one thing, and then I was going into the Google Photos thing because Data and I, right as before we got on to here, we were talking about sharing images of some of the cool art from the Nerd Collective and stuff like that. And I'm like, you know what? I should open up my Google Photos tab and show some pictures from the summit because so many of you in the chat are here. So, but before we jump in, I need to do the homework that I sometimes forget, and you guys know. One, thank you to Lunar Crush because we're streaming on Lunar Crush's Twitter account and Lunar Crush Live and all that, and we love them. And two, Blockchain Radio for syndicating the content and doing all that. Yes, Rafe, better call Saul. And of course, if you're watching one of the things, I need to fix this graphic. I'm been so lazy. Just go to blockchainbooze.io. It'll redirect to the DGH event site. If you want to hang out with the community and chat with everyone, timed, I've got some epic pictures from the conference. Come and join us at blockchainbooze.io. You'll see the live chat. You can watch us instead of watching it on YouTube or on the Lunar Crush site or wherever you are watching from. And without further ado, welcome back, Data. I know we've had you on. The crew, the community knows you because you were a part of kind of that, I wanted to say Operation Phoenix, which is one of my favorite.
That's right, yeah.
Time. Operation Phoenix is a Good Riddance album that everyone should. I'm wearing a different shirt today, but you should all get that album and listen to it, and it's good. It's one of the best punk albums of all time. But what did they call it when the Fame Lady Squad takeover? It was like the Phoenix Project or something.
Yeah, we did. I think we called it Operation Phoenix.
Really? That's awesome. I don't know if any of you guys are is nerds for hardcore punk rock from California as I am, but there's a band from Santa Cruz called Good Riddance. And I'm obsessed with them. Like, they're one of my favorite bands of all times, and they have an album called Operation Phoenix.
I love it,
which is awesome. But Data was a part of that crew, and that's one of the reasons why I love them. And now you're launching the Nerd Collective. But before we jump into all that stuff and talk about recapping the summit and doing everything that we do, thank you, Time. I might share a tab later and show some fun pictures from the live blockchain and booze sessions. But Data, give everyone a background about you, and cheers to whoever is drinking. No pressure to the community. Oh, you're having a drink? Cheers. Tell the community who doesn't know you yet about yourself.
Well, first of all, just thank you for having me on, and your continued friendship and support. Just, you are a shining light in this space, and
thank you. I should say, I usually give a little like a disclaimer when it's like a DGH portfolio company or something like that. The only disclaimer I can say in this is that Nerd Collective and no Saul and Data is not a part of any DGH company or anything like that. DGH has never invested in this or anything like that, like some of the other folks that are a part of the crew here. But I'm a big fan, like I said, because of Fame Lady Squad. I personally did mint 10 of the PFPs. So that was
saw that come through.
My kids and I have a kind of playbook ever since my daughter forced me to over mint on the World of Women drop, which was one of the greatest moves she told me to do. So personally, I minted because I love the team. And we're going to find out more, and we'll find out if I made the right decision over time. I will always think I made the right decision because I'm one of those people that just hold forever. But I just want to give that disclaimer that if anyone gives me shit or says I'm like, pumping something or whatever, what was it? I was gonna say I don't give an F. I don't give a fuck. But I was not doing the correction of the acronym in my head fast enough.
IDAF.
I don't know. Whatever.
Exactly. Yeah.
But for real, like I appreciate you and what you've done in the past in the community. So that's why I participated. Winks from the Fame Lady Squad crew is also. I don't know her exact title. I just know she's a part of the crew, and so I'm a big fan. So, but anyway, give us your background for people who don't know you yet.
Yeah, no, thank you. So, my name's Data. DataNFT is my Twitter handle, which most of you know me by. You can also call me Saul. I am doxxed, clearly. And I've spent my career building apps and websites. So I've worked for small startups. I've worked for big Fortune 500 companies. I've built Android apps, iOS apps, big touch table apps, big kind of.
When you say you built them, just a quick.
Sorry, my background is UX design strategy.
Design, okay.
And
design and UX kind of stuff.
So I've been part of teams that build these, right? So that's kind of been my bread and butter: marketing websites, hundreds of these things.
Yeah.
And been doing that for 15 years, and it's been fun, but up comes the pandemic, and it's just kind of the same thing over and over again. I'm looking for something new. And of course, in my lap falls Gary Vee, who I'd been following for 15 years. I got into Gary Vee back in the wine library days. I was traveling to Italy, and I was like, I better learn a little bit about wine or do some Googling. I was like, who is this guy talking about wine on YouTube? And was a big fan there. Lost track. Anyway,
do you remember? I don't know if this was right after, I don't know how many years back this was. I got to do some math, but I think I was there around 2008 or so. But I remember, maybe it was while I was still at MySpace, but it might have been soon after. I remember Gary Vee being like in that YouTuber kind of world, in the mix of like the influencers, and most of them were such shit. And I even said to his face, like, I had a negative connotation of all these people. So even him, I looped in there for a while, but he had the staying power, and now I have major respect for him. And I think he's amazing. But I remember him saying, like, publicly, people are going to earn a living on YouTube. And everyone thought he was fucking insane. And he was so far ahead of 99% of people, like in that world, right? Like, can you, like, in that same time, okay, around 2010, I was for sure, like, by 2010, I was for sure at IMDb, the Internet Movie Database. They're owned by Amazon. And they were convincing filmmakers, the group that I was a part of was you submitted your films to film festivals through it. And then it got ingested into the whole IMDb data, everything, right? But filmmakers were so pissed. In 2010, 12 years ago, right? Filmmakers were like, I am not putting my piece of art, this beautiful piece of art. Like, I'm a cinematographer. I'm fucking, like, it was like real groups. Like, I'm not talking about just like, a bunch of indie people too, which by the way, just because you're independent doesn't mean it's not amazing art. But like, we're talking about like Steven Spielberg's production company, right? Going like, are you nuts putting our film on the internet? That's like it was like disgusting to them. Like, the quality, it's pixelated. You don't see like the artistic integrity and everything, right? And now we're 12 years later, right? Yeah. And it's just crazy, right?
And most things now go direct to streaming with the pandemic these days. It's like totally reversed.
Yeah. Oh, cool. I was just gonna. I got distracted. Somebody asked what your full Twitter handle is, and then somebody else responded. It's DataNFT with an underscore afterwards.
It is, yeah.
You got to go after it.
I have. It's kind of, I own it now because now all my Twitter handles have underscores after them. Nerd Collective underscore. So
it's like throwing a 1 into the many exclamation points after something. Like you got to go old school from when you had to click shift each time, you know, and then you might accidentally, you know, you might not be that old, but I am.
I'm old school enough, but yeah, probably not a big internet.
So you went from doing, you know, product. Hold on, I gotta turn down my brightness a little bit. There we go. So I had to. You went from doing product design work and a bunch of, you know, corporate media kind of what's the right term? Agency kind of stuff.
Yep.
And then pandemic came around and you discovered NFTs.
Yeah, and it just I've been following Gary. I've been kind of interested in crypto a little bit. Mostly, I was just bored, right? I needed something to do.
Yeah.
And he's like, you know, you should check out Ethereum. And there's these things called NFTs. And I'm going down to visit my brother. It's Thanksgiving of, I guess, 2020. And driving down to LA, and I just throw Gary's podcast on loop. And he just is like NFT after NFT talking about punks. I'm like, okay, that's kind of interesting. And so kind of bumble along. And then he's like, I'm launching this thing called VFriends. Like, I want you guys in on it. I was like, all right, like this sounds like a person I've been following for a long time. If I'm going to dip my toe in the water here in this NFT space, it might as well be with Gary. So, you know, I buy some ETH early on, back when ETH was like $600. And
I remember during the pandemic time, because those of you who were around and we were talking about it at the time, poopoo.eth, who is my son, was you know, he made his ETH selling his NFTs and doing that stuff at like a few $100 in ETH, and then it pumped a couple months later, and his ego inflated immensely.
Yeah, I'm still paying for those capital gains on that pump up to 4K and then buying VFriends. But so, you know, I minted some VFriends. I intended to mint one. I was like, why would I mint a rare one? Like, I'm gonna mint one of these floor ones. I don't care what character it is. And of course, the day comes to mint, it happens to be on my birthday. We're out to dinner, and I'm like on my phone, like trying to mint these things, and like comes to mint, it's like, wait, I don't just want any character.
Right.
Like
you know how many times I've done that? I remember being with my family once. Like we live in Southern California. I live kind of like in between LA, like where the city is, and like Santa Barbara, like right in the middle. And I remember one of the trips that we actually just like randomly on a weekend drove up to Santa Barbara or Montecito, you know, especially, you know, COVID times and things, you want to just do outdoor stuff. So we like went to some outdoor restaurant, whatever. And I was talking to my son and my wife, like everyone is just so annoyed with me because like I'm discussing with my son, like what happens if we don't get home in time for, I think it was the other side drop or something. Right. And like, everyone was like, we're literally like having a good time together. We're in Santa Barbara, the beach is in front of us. And you're like worried about like, okay, can you access the wallet on your mobile device? Like my son is asking me, like, it's so funny. I'm glad I'm not the only one.
Yeah. I mean, we then proceeded to have a baby moon in Hawaii, which of course, like I'm glued to my phone because this is the first like 3 weeks of VFriends, and they go from like 0.5 to 6 ETH, and I'm just like thrilled.
Yeah.
But you know, so I it gets down to it, and all of a sudden
I bought into VFriends, just throwing it out there in case any of the VFriends community is watching. I was one of your guys' like major donors of exit liquidity because I had Gary on here, and I was so stoked after the call. And I told you, like, I had a not negative connotation, but I was like, oh, okay, internet marketer dude. And Ashley Becky pushed me to like look into what was going on with VFriends, and I got kind of sucked in. And then Gary V was on, and I didn't want to buy like just a floor.
Of course not. Yeah.
So I went to like, you know, the rare or whatever the rarest level, and I bought mine probably at the peak. But it's totally okay. I'm holding, and I'm totally cool with holding.
Yeah.
But that's amazing that you were early. But I think, you know, it's a similar story in a way to a lot of friends who were like sneakerheads or whatever, right? That got into Bored Apes because somehow there was some correlation of like people, right? Like I remember Reaper was telling us about that one day. And also Jason the Ape, the Hustle House, Baron von Hustle, right? He was doing like those Gary V style, like what was it called, like where you trade and stuff, like you buy garage sale stuff,
Yeah,
you
the
sell it
garage
online,
sale
or
flips. I mean,
flips, the flip life stuff.
Especially early on, the space was just filled with flippers, right? So like people who did ticket sales, secondhand ticket sales, people who lots of Pokemon card people, just it was filled with that. And Gary had done that on purpose, right? Like he knew what he was doing. But the big moment for me with VFriends was all of a sudden there's these characters. I'm having fun. I'm like, this is more fun than I've had. Like I haven't had this much fun since trading Pokemon cards when I was 7.
For me, it was like you know, and those of you who know me, I've been in the space for a long time. But like all NFT talk was conceptual, right? Like I was telling Data before we came on, like our friend Shiv from Moonwalk was doing a thing called block party ticketing in like 2017 during like those ICO days, and he was like, concert tickets are going to be NFTs. Like everyone thought it was freaking insane. So that was our idea of an NFT until all of a sudden it became real. And I like you're saying, you maybe collected Pokemon cards and things like that. For me in junior high, it was Magic the Gathering. Before that, it was like the comic book cards. I collected comic books, but for me, comic book cards were like a real thing. Like I have those, you know, Marvel Masterpieces sets at my parents' house.
Yeah.
Still, they're sitting there, and my mom keeps asking me like, when are you gonna grab these from the closet? But like, it was the first time I was having that kind of fun, right? Like playing with these NFTs. I bought way too many Fame Ladies with my daughter because it was, you know, I brought her into the room and I was like, look, it's an all women thing. And she made me go kind of wild, which I appreciated. And then that whole saga came together. But it was fun. Even with all that craziness, it was fun.
And part of that too was earlier on, things weren't ridiculously expensive. And so like, yes, it was money, and I'm coming from a place of privilege. I totally get that. But
we all are like, but it wasn't like it is today. It wasn't like I'm spending thousands of dollars. There was like this thing where it felt insane that we were like spending like $20 on a gas fee or something. That was a privileged position, but it wasn't insane, right? Like even today, it's still insane on some of these collections.
Totally. And so it was a little different back then. And like the collectability piece wasn't really front and center. And, you know, I think that's how we sold it, right? Digital collectibles. And then, you know, with VFriends and of course, Bored Apes, like they're really the pioneers of, okay, well, this isn't just a collectible, but it's an access token, right? Yeah. So with Gary, it's access to his conference, and him. With Bored Apes, it started as access to a bathroom, and I passed on Bored Apes because I was like, why would I spend money on Bored Apes to get access to a bathroom when I have VFriends over here? I'm getting access to a conference. But of course, they took that to the next level, right?
The conference, and you weren't able to attend in person.
I just had a baby. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't want to say that out loud, but yeah, you had just had a baby, so I didn't get to see you in person. But I went to VCon. And in the last minute, I didn't even need my VFriend because I was moderating a few panels. But it was, what was really cool about it, like I do LA Blockchain Summit. I've done all our events. I've gone to BTC Miami since before, you know, there was crypto conferences, and it was just a Bitcoin conference, right? Like I've been a part of these things for a long time. But VCon was a totally different world. It was the first time, it reminded me of the first time Joseph and I did a conference, because up until that point, we were doing conferences and it was all the service providers and people participating in the space. And we created a conference at the time. It was the crowdfunding world before it was crypto. And it was the first time you could actually meet the companies that were doing crowdfunding campaigns and meet the people investing in them. That was at least the concept. And I think we did an okay job. And we got better over time. But like VCon was the first time I went to a crypto conference where it was actually all the participants, way more than the people shilling. And there were the people shilling, of course. It's a crypto conference. It's sort of a crypto conference, but like I moderated the smart contract panel. And in my mind, I was like, oh, this is going to get crazy technical. And I was like kind of doing my homework, but kind of a little nervous because I can be pretty technical and I can understand this stuff, but I'm not an engineer that builds shit from scratch, right? I break stuff more than I create stuff in that sense. And I was like a little nervous going into it. And then I started researching the other people on the panel because I was moderating. And I was like, they're not all very technical. Like some of them are technical and some are not. And I'm like, this is a smart contract panel. And then when I got there, I realized it's not a technical crowd. It's actually the collectors. And the people who wanted to learn about smart contracts are the people who are interested in this space and wanting to learn, not somebody who's already an engineer, right? And already, understands how to program some basic Solidity stuff, right? Like this, and it made it way more fun. And it made it cool because I literally, the first person I saw when I was checking into my hotel is a dude who had an ape on the back of his jacket. And I'm like, that's a rad jacket. Where did you get that jacket? And he goes, oh, it's one of the ones that was licensed to get into, remember, is it Zoomies? I don't even know I don't know how you say that chain store of clothing store.
I know what you're talking about.
There was some apes, like 7 or 8 apes that did a licensing deal with that place and they sold those things. But the dude whose jacket had the ape on the back of it was actually his ape. And that was the dude. And he was like a VFriends early collector. And then he bought an ape because he got into VFriends. And sometimes they bought an ape and they got into V, right? And so I'm like, I meet the dude. And it's the first person I met, not even at the conference, just checking into the hotel. And it was like, it kind of kept going. And then, I'm sitting, it was the end of a 2-week trip for me. I did our security token summit. I did a private sort of Draper Venture Network Summit with all of the Draper Network funds in San Francisco. I went to New York, did our security token summit. Then I ended the trip going to VCon, and I was tired, and I didn't want to be in crowds. And I was also like, there was spiking COVID-y stuff. And I'm like about to come home to my kids, and I was like masking up unless I was on stage basically. So I'm like in the background, and I see Ashley Borbecki and Winks like come up the thing, and like every single person was just like, it was just such a good, different vibe, right? Like it was a different situation. LA Blockchain Summit. I told you it was like one of our more successful ones because of the way we organized the crowd of people. But success for LA Blockchain Summit is about investors and startups getting together, right? And the high quality kind of interactions. VCon felt like a party where every person actually knew what an NFT was, right? Like it was really cool.
And Gary Vee pitches, it's all strategic, right? His whole thing is like, this is summer camp, right? Like, why would you sell a token if it brings you to the party of the year where you see all your friends and you get to talk about all the fun stuff? Like he's engineered that from the start to be very intentional about like, this is educational, but this is about getting together as a VFriends community and celebrating.
Yeah. It was really cool because like I said, it was just the community, right? And that's the thing, is somebody who is an internet marketer who built a big community and did that stuff probably understood the power of NFTs and the power of community better than most people getting into the space, right? So I get constantly pitched by people starting companies, right? And every once in a while you meet like an engineer who built the most genius, really cool, crazy thing. And you're like talking to them and the product looks like complete crap. It's hard to figure out how to use, but like this person is the smartest person you ever met in your life. Right. And then there's the other side of it, right? Where people can understand how you build communities, do all that stuff. And when the two meld together, like when they know how to work together, it's incredible. And I've said this on the show a million times, but I want to dive into your stuff. But like the Lunar Crush guys, one of the reasons why I fell in love very early and I'm obsessed with what they do is the first thing they said to me was they were talking about how you can't measure cryptocurrency because we're talking about like 2016, 2017. Right. You can't measure a cryptocurrency the way you measure a stock if you're thinking about it as an investment opportunity. And I'm talking about crypto, not specifically NFTs at the moment, but like you're looking at this and it's supposed to be decentralized, it's supposed to be a group of people. Now, when you're investing in Tesla, or maybe not Tesla is a good example because Elon Musk is
Right.
understands the memes and he understands community. But like when you're looking at buying a Amazon share, people are watching for those quarterly earnings reports. They're looking at the annual filings. They're looking at the CEO and they're seeing what the CEO is saying. But there's no CEO for a cryptocurrency, right? There is no quarterly earnings report. There are no reports unless they report it, right? There's data you can get directly from the blockchain. There is a GitHub where you can see how active the developer community is. There nowadays is a Discord you can see. Back then there was Telegram, but that stuff can be very easily faked, right? So you have to see real engagement versus numbers. There's a whole tangent. I want to go there at some point. Maybe we should talk about it because you get data and you might have similar pet peeves as me. But they have all this data, right, that exists, but people don't know how to parse through it. And so Lunar Crush would ingest that, and they would always say there is no crypto without community, right? That is the only thing you can measure, is how many people are discussing it, how many new people are discussing it, how many people are leaving or coming to the community, how active the developers are, and how much people are discussing it on YouTube, on Twitter, on
a lot of parallels to NFTs.
Yeah, now NFTs have come in, and there's a lot of parallels, right? And actually, that's probably a good spot because I know the one thing I don't know very much about Nerd Collective, because I've been in this LA Blockchain Summit like swamped mode, is you guys are launching a platform, right? Like, and it's a data platform, which, by the way, I'm going to put you in a headlock because I think we're going to have to like get you some like special access to the Lunar Crush data, because I think some of that will have to be piped in. Because I'm excited to see what you, as an expert and who understands the space, will do with that kind of data and take it to a different level. But tell us what you guys are launching, and tell us about it took me 30 minutes to segue into this.
We've meandered. It's good.
It's fun. But tell us about the Nerd Collective, and then tell us about the platform you're launching. Tell us about the drop right now.
So the Nerd Collective, it's layered, just like most NFT projects and NFTs themselves. But in general, we're trying to build a Web3 home for nerds. So a place where people can feel like their authentic nerdy selves, where they have the tools, the community, the resources to make smarter decisions in the Web3 space, to be able to dive deeper into their passions and learn something along the way. And so we have been building this community for 11 months now, which has been incredible. We have...
You mean you didn't just go like, I think we can make a lot of money by dropping these NFTs?
I would have made a lot of money if I had that approach, but that wasn't...
Yeah, 11 months ago, you would have made a lot more money.
That's right. February
we'll go into that
in a second. Yeah. So we started out saying we want to launch a project the way we think is the right way, which is we want to actually provide real value out of the gate. So it's clear to us that you can't rely just on floor price as your only sole vehicle of value. Because it's just, the math doesn't work out. You need infinite new dollars coming into the space, new people. And at some point, as we've seen, that just doesn't work out. So how can we provide as much value as possible to our holders and not rely on floor price? So the obvious thing was like, well, we build apps. My co-founder and I work together. He's more on the technical side, and we build apps. Like, let's build an app, something that people would actually use, and be in a lot of ways a typical NFT project, have a PFP, and we have some really strong reasons behind that, but also be atypical in that this is actually a piece of utility that you can use out of it day one, out of the gate. We're probably going to be day 3, day 4, but and we did a lot of research. I surveyed 700 people. I had one-on-one conversations with dozens of people. I always on using Twitter to take the temperature. And so wanting to really dive into like, well, what is that people want? And so one thing that I realized was 95% of people who I'd surveyed in my community don't use data at all when making decisions around NFTs and trading.
That's 0. I mean, there is, I will say, I say that's crazy. But I'm I think an outlier in that I'm not buying into all of these communities as an investment.
Right.
I don't think of it as an investment. Although when I did buy comic books as a kid, I did think in the back of my mind, this is not just something that I want as a collectible, but like it might be worth something someday, right? Like, so, but I don't do that right now anymore with NFTs, but a lot of people do. And there's a reason why I bought 10. So actually, in my mind, I just did what I did when I bought World of Women, right? My daughter, in that sense, strong-armed me that day because I was going to buy 1 or 2. And she's like, you have to get 10. And I was like, and I don't remember exactly how many we got. We got 8 or 10. We still have 6. But the thing was, when it did pump up in value, I did sell 1 or 2, right? But I don't go into it anymore really thinking that. I go into it because I like the vibe. I like the intention. And I also think in the back of my mind that I'm going to end up giving 1 or 2 of these away. Like I'll end up having a conversation with someone. I'm like, this is your first NFT, right? Like that's how I end up doing with everything. I think I've given away probably 10 world Fame ladies over time because I minted a lot.
So
yeah.
Funnily enough, I'm exactly the same way. I've been a successful trader, but doing something similar where I go in on high conviction projects where I really do my due diligence. While I have done flipping and some fast snipes, that's not my bread and butter. It's not how I have fun doing this. And I didn't feel like there was a tool that serviced people like you and I where, I want to make a more calculated decision versus a lot of the tools out there about speed. What's the next Bored Apes? And how can I snipe something before everyone else? How can I front run people? And our tool actually focuses on, right now, nothing to do with projects you aren't in, only to do with your portfolio to date. So the whole idea is...
Yeah, you know what? I'm a huge fan, for example, and I have no correlation with them. And I even had a conversation with them early on. I wish that I met them maybe a little earlier, or maybe in hindsight, I wish I did a deal. I don't know. But I like Zerion. I don't know if you've ever used Zerion, but I use it to track my Ethereum wallet. And it was like the first one of those I used. It's kind of similar to Sapperify if you use that. But I just always like Zerion better. It was very simple. It watches your wallet. I get alerts from Zerion, right? And I see how many, for just as an example, see how much my ape coin is worth, right? And then if I get some kind of weird random airdrop, it shows up there and I see it and I watch it and I see, I just get some basic pricing and things like that. There isn't a good one for NFTs.
There's not.
Like Zapper and Zerion are fine for NFTs. Like you can see the kind of high level value maybe, but you don't see all the data you for sure want.
Well, and we all rely on OpenSea, right? Like that has been our home base. And so we're a little bit of the antidote for that. And, part of this is based on my personal success and philosophy when it comes to trading. Part of it is through research and understanding what people want. But for me, the best way to become a trader, right, especially for those who don't use data and don't really want to get into the hardcore dashboards, is to understand your successes and failures that you've already gone through, learn from them, and figure out how to build on the successes, avoid the failures again.
Yeah.
So
there's that one, I forgot what it was. It's kind of similar to that one fees.wtf. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but there was something where you connected your wallet and it would like look at your collection and be like, you spent this much, this was your biggest loss. Like you took the biggest loss on this NFT, or you got the biggest win on this NFT. But like, it's ridiculous that you have to sign into something and then you have to like connect each time. Like it should be a live dashboard.
Right.
So is that essentially what you're doing? Are you looking at the sort of profits and loss, or are you looking at other data, showing some other stuff too?
We do have a good P&L chart. We don't really get into taxes. I just need to do a disclaimer there because that's crazy complex.
Yeah.
It's all about giving you.
By the way, anyone who's listening, so at one point, it's like a couple of years ago, I mean, we could do that. We could look at the domains and see when I did it. But like I did a search on GoDaddy for NFT dot whatever was available. And there was a bunch available at the time. And I only bought like 3 or 4. But one of the ones I bought was NFT.tax.
No way.
So I own, but honestly, my favorite ones are NFT.family that I own, and NFT.pizza. I own that too.
I feel like there's an ape that wants NFT.pizza.
You do? Oh, that one guy. I keep messaging. I literally have told him publicly, like, dude, I own NFT.pizza. Let's just trade. Like, I'll give it to you. Like, I'm the type of person with stuff like that. Like, there was somebody who hit me up because I wanted, in my mind, early in the days of NFTs on Tezos. So, like, I was one of the people who minted some NFTs on the command line on Tezos before there was a single platform, because I was an early Tezos person. I like the community, and I'm a big fan of the community there. And I bought NFTZ dot everything that was available, because in my mind, TZ is like the Tezos thing,
Tezos,
like XTZ.
right, yeah.
So I was like, everything that ends with TZ. So I bought NFTs with a Z, everything. And I held it for like 2 years or so. And I tried to give it to so many people launching NFT platforms on Tezos. Nobody did it. And eventually I got some weird random GoDaddy offer for a few $1,000s for NFTZ dot something. I don't even know which one it was. And I just accepted it. And then I messaged the person once I found out who it was. And I was like, you can have all the rest of my NFTZ dot whatever. Because like, I'm not going to sell it to someone else now. That's not really fair. But if it was somebody I knew, I want to just give it to them, right? Because, you know, so like if you are somebody doing like a tax product in NFTs, I got your back. Let's do it. But anyway, so you're building this data platform. It's going to be a cool P&L kind of thing, and see your existing collection, see the status. Does it look at kind of the current, or will it also include like you bought it at this price?
Yeah, so that's one of the big things. There's a whole table, filterable, searchable table with all your NFTs. It says, here's what you bought it at. Here's the gas price you paid. Here's the fees you paid. Here's what you'd have to sell it at today for break even. Here's what you'd have to sell it at today for making a profit. And then if you have it listed, we say, hey, you've listed it under water, like you're underwater with your investment. Yeah. So again, people forget about gas. We pay a lot of gas.
No, I was about to say, that's really cool that you included the gas fees, because there are moments in time where we spent like, like $100+ in a gas fee. It's stupid, right? Like, and again, getting back to that sort of privileged conversation, dude, this is the thing that drives me nuts about it, is in the moments, and like when gas went down in price for like a moment, like it's only $50, or today I was looking at what you guys posted maybe yesterday or today about the gas fees of minting, and you were like, it's about $5 or $4, whatever it was, but like the estimates are off. I was like, it triggered this feeling in me, because I remember when we were talking about NFTs really, really early, and gas fees were like $1, right? And I remember explaining to someone like, this is absurd. This is going to ruin the industry, when it was $1, because in my mind, I was like, think about this. And again, I went back to like trading baseball cards, and I was imagining Yoni and I, who's been on the show, he's my cousin, and we grew up like together. His neighbor, Gary, who was just at LA Blockchain Summit, and us would like take over one of our garages and make it like a Comic-Con kind of thing, where we all set up tables, we laid out our cards or comic books, and we trade and we do it. And I said, like, imagine if I wanted to trade a comic book or a Wolverine card for a Cyclops card with Gary, because I had 2 of the Wolverine, he had 2 of the Cyclops, and it was the silver foil edition, and we want to trade, right? Imagine like one of our parents coming in the garage and stopping and go, like throwing their arms up and going, like, stop. You each have to give me $1 before you can do this. Yeah. It would have been like insane, right? Like insane. It would have been insane. And that's what was happening in the early days. Now it's even higher. I mean, there's more and more happening on Polygon and Arbitrum and Tezos and everywhere else. But it's really cool to throw that into the data, and it makes a lot of sense because it changes every day too. It's not a constant.
Totally.
Do you calculate it based on dollar value when it originally happened?
We're going to be
ETH value to today.
One of the biggest things that we're doing, and this is one of the reasons I'm most excited about NFTs and NFT projects, which is it's a different business paradigm, right? Your stakeholders are also love that Astro's been crushing it today. Your stakeholders are also your users, are also your community members, and so all of a sudden, a company that gets feedback loops in how quickly they can measure sentiment, market sentiment, maybe 6 weeks, maybe 6 months, you can get daily feedback. So we've designed it so out of the gate, things are really lightweight, and we're going to be adapting every day, every week as people give us feedback and the market changes, right?
I will tell you that it's kind of funny because I think it changes for everyone. And I like, on one hand, it's you as a UX designer kind of person will have to weigh if it's actually important versus me just saying I like this feature. But I love like the toggle between kind of like ETH versus USD on things, because in different moments in time, 99% of the time for me, being who I am and being, an insane person, most likely compared to most people, I just want to accumulate more, right? And in my mind, I don't care very much about the dollar value. And it's probably part of what brought me into this industry, is having some kind of mental disconnect from like a dollar, right? I do things that are really weird. Like on one hand, I can look very frugal in certain situations, and then I'll be like, I'll buy a founder collective token for half an ETH, right? And that doesn't bother me at all. Just like, it's like that sounds about right. And maybe it's a psychological mind game, magical internet money, 1 ETH. What's the big deal? It's just one, But anyway,
well, let me tell you, for me, when I flipped over, which was when you have to pay taxes, because I bought ETH at $600. I then bought a VFriend when ETH was 4,500. I didn't make any money on that transaction, but when I buy that VFriend, that's a taxable event. So I paid capital gains from $600 to $4,500 on quite a bit of ETH, right? And that's when I all of a sudden was like, oh shit, like 1 ETH, you got to track the USD.
But what's crazy is still to this day, I think that's what the majority of accountants and consensus says, that you have to do what you just said you did. But like, there's still people I talk to and accountants I talk to, they're like, well, it depends. Is this you, or is this an LLC? Is this a corporation? And it's like, and then they start doing all these different kind of games, and they're doing backflips and things. And then, but like, they're also like, what is right? Did you actually profit from that? And you're like, no, it didn't profit because I bought this other thing that probably depreciated in value US dollars wise. And like, but I try to throw that stuff out. And again, like I'm so nerdy at it. But what's interesting is I always will do the like, I just want to know, like, this world of women, is it worth more ETH than when I got it? And then I go, if I make ETH when I sell something like that, I instantly put it into this bucket that's like our savings account. And I don't ever think about it in US dollars, because for the longest time I had a goal. I wanted to get to a certain number of ETH in the savings account, because in my mind I was like, 10 years from now, that's my kids' college tuition or whatever, buying a house with that or something, right? Like, that's at least how I would consider it and how I would justify it in my mind. But then, what's interesting is the other day, because the market's in the dumps, I started going like, wait, this NFT is now like 5 ETH, and that's only like, I don't know, $6,000 or something. Only, right? I've never bought a physical art. I've never bought a physical piece of art that's more than like, I don't know, $50. So it's like insanity, right? Like, but like, you start doing this, like these things, and that's why it's really funny. I live in Lunar Crush. Everybody knows that. And I talk about it all the time. I start and end every conversation with it. And I'm obsessed. But I do use CoinGecko just because that's one simple tool of like going, wait, is this in ETH? How much is this worth in US dollars? How much is this worth in ApeCoin? How much is this worth? Because I did throw outside of the savings account bucket, I threw 1,000 Ape in my son's wallet and in my wallet. And so then I start doing the like, ooh, like you start just playing these games and going like, wait, US dollars, you do these, David is, I think he's very similar to me, never sell. Although
the issue with never selling though is that my accountant was very adamant about paying capital gains when you buy. It's like you never sell, but you keep paying capital gains.
Ask him how he feels about borrowing against it, right? So I had this one kind of conversation, and I completely confused the shit out of this one accountant, because he was explaining to me exactly what you just said. You sell, you pay capital gains, and then I was like, wait. I go to buy something. Let's say, just for round numbers' sake, it's $100, but my cost basis was $10. Now I gained $90 how much do I have to pay in taxes on that? And he was like giving me the number. And then I was like, what if I borrowed against that $100 worth of crypto and I got $50 worth of crypto and I used that money to purchase the NFT and the thing. And now I borrowed it. I don't have to pay taxes on it. He's like, well, and then the downside is, what if the crypto market goes down completely and I lose that collateral that I originally paid? But if I sold it to buy the thing and pay the taxes, what would that be? And they're like, well, technically, when you get liquidated at half price, you might have to profit. You show the profit on the liquidation. And I'm like, yeah, but now I only gained $40 versus $9. When you start doing these calculations and these things in your head, because you're like, but if it goes up, because it only goes up, right? Like you start justifying this craziness, but there are games people play. You gotta be really careful. And I will say,
I mean, my accountant,
don't borrow against your crypto unless it's like some very, very conservative amount. Don't like leverage to the max, because that's where people get wrecked. And by the way,
not financial
centralized or not, there's people manipulating those numbers.
100%. And I'm not even going to bring up FTX here.
So we didn't jump in really. I want to talk about the PFP drop, because now we're like 50 minutes in, right? I want to talk about the PFP drop. I would love to see some of the art. If you have it open in a tab and can do the share, I'll bring it up on the screen. I could even go to the website right now and show some people too. But I want to, tell me about the drop. Tell me about everything that's going on. You guys, and I said this before we went live, right? And Ben wants to talk about FTX. I'm not gonna. I don't want to dive in, but I want to say kudos to you, because you're one of the reasons why I love your project and what you're doing. Is you said you've been working on this 11 months. You picked right now to launch because it was the best time for your project and what you were doing. Obviously not because of the markets. And this last 2 weeks has been like even crazier because unprecedented, insane shit has happened, right? And you guys are doing great. Like, I mean, in this market, in this time, you guys are absolutely killing it. So tell people a little bit about the project and show people some of the art, because I hate all of these different, derivative style artwork kind of projects, right? Like, not even talking about the fact that you have, all these other things that you're doing. Oh, cool. Here, I'm going to bring this up. Boom. You guys created unique looking art. There isn't another PFP project I've seen that looks similar. And then you see things in here, little things like the Superman N kind of thing. There was like another one that actually looked to me. Stuff like that. There's really, the details are awesome. There was actually one black t-shirt that had like an N in a circle that was kind of coming off of it.
It's I call it Nerdarchy.
Yeah. So it looks actually, there's a band, I literally looked it up. There was a band called like Conflict, I think, that had a semi-similar logo, not exactly, but it like immediately I was like, that's a rad thing. But the thing is, you made a bunch of, you made a bunch of really cool, details, right?
Yeah. So, the reason I told the VFriend story is because it's had a lot of influence on what I wanted to create. And a lot of people talk about PFPs are overdone, PFPs are dead, and I could just not disagree more. Until someone comes out with a better way to flex your digital assets than the avatar of the PFP, PFPs are going to continue to dominate. And PFPs are really one of the only ways you can say something about yourself digitally through some sort of pictorial manifestation, right? So like, I walk down the street, I wear shoes, I wear pants, right? I drive a car, I have a house. Every one of those decisions and what I have says something about me. And, I may wear beat up shoes that I bought secondhand, and that still says something about me, or I might wear $1,000 Yeezys. Well, in the digital space, your PFP is that thing that's communicating something. And so communicate something through two ways. One is, what does it look like visually, right? What does it say right there? And then what does it stand for in terms of like, what collection is that part of, and what does that collection stand for? So,
I think that people misunderstood it. Yeah, that looks so cool. Can you zoom into the one that had the Back to the Future looking shirt? I didn't see that beforehand, but I saw it right there. Nerds of the future. I love that. See, so like all this stuff, I'm so stoked to find out. By the way, when is the reveal? When will
Tomorrow,
I
I believe 9 a.m.
Ooh, 9 a.m.
Yeah.
PST?
PST.
Oh, that's awesome. So, there's a few people in there. I just shared the link, Nerd Clay. By the way, I should say this because we're now around 7 minutes away from the end. We don't always follow the rules, but remember, if you go to blockchainbooze.io, you'll be redirected to the DGH events site. If you're watching it on one of the streams, and I know there's a bunch of you who are doing that, you can come and hang out with the community and talk. Turn on your camera when we're done and hang out also.
Cool.
But right now I'm watching that chat. Dion is asking, what's the per wallet mint limit? Is there a limit?
There is not limited. It's public mint is open right now.
So
public we went through a number of phases for allow list. Public mint is open. Nerdcollective.xyz. There's mint buttons everywhere. There's no limit. I love it. The truth about limits, people game it anyway, and they'll use multiple wallets, and so
what's the point? Yeah,
it's a bit of a false.
I don't like those games too. Like once people do those, again, when they do have those limits, right? It's just you're setting it up for. It reminds me of regulation in a way, right? Like, guess who doesn't follow regulation? People who are scammers, right? So no amount of regulation is going to get rid of the scammers. Only law enforcement can do that. And that's how I feel about what happened with FTX, by the way, jumping into the, Ben is saying something about FTX again. So I'm just going to dump it in, right? Like the thing that's crazy about it all to me is one, this didn't happen. 99% of the problem didn't happen on a US regulated exchange because they had to create their exchange in another country because the regulation in the US stopped them. So that's one thing. No amount of US regulation would have fixed that. Second part is that they broke a bunch of laws in the United States and beyond. And guess what? No regulation would have changed that, right? They broke the law. So now they should have just been more transparent. Law enforcement needs to chase after these people. They need to get hit. The only thing that's going to stop more of this from happening is them getting, penalized, getting thrown in jail, getting punished 10x worse than maybe they do now, right? And if that happens again and again and again, hopefully that stops people. But how it is right now, SEC just fines like the world's largest banks in orders of magnitudes of billions of dollars, way more money than was lost even in FTX. Every year gets fined to the world's biggest banks for fraud, right? And so if nobody goes to jail and it's just fines, nobody's ever going to stop doing it. The difference in this case is that it's a great narrative because of crypto, right? And it's also not insured. So now there isn't and there isn't a precedence of a bailout, right?
Yeah. I would push that, and especially in NFT projects, there's another way to hold them accountable, which is the people who are buying in, the people who are using these tools, who are investing in these projects. It is on us to put our dollars where we think people are trustworthy, where we do our due diligence and look for transparency. I think it's good for everyone if we continue to support projects that are here for the right reasons. It's bad for everyone if we support the projects that are here for the wrong reasons, right?
Yes, 100%. It's why you'll see me play around with projects that are maybe not in the DGH portfolio or not something that I'm an investor in or have any conflict, because I participate in the space and I want the space to grow. And by the way, some of those projects I did make offers maybe to invest in or try to get them into the DGH pipeline and whatever, and it didn't work out. It doesn't always happen. It doesn't mean that I stopped loving the project, right? It was kind of weird being at the summit because you see the gamut of investors, right, that participate. And some of the smartest VCs that I know don't really understand the products, right? And for me, I can't participate. I can't invest in a company or participate in a company if I'm not in it, right? If I'm not really goofing around with it, looking at their API, breaking things and asking the founders questions. That's just me as a person, right? But there's other people that can just meet the team, just do the thing and understand. But for me, it has to be bigger. And I saw what you guys are doing. I love what you're doing. I probably will try to do a hangout session and put you in a headlock and see if there is a company behind this that DGH could maybe invest in. I'm saying this publicly, you know, because I love what you're doing, but I also looking at the art, right? There is not just like, okay, it's easy to say, oh, it's diverse, right? There's, you know, different skin tones, there's different hairstyles, there's different stuff, but it's like, it's all across the way. And it's not just like diverse in that kind of sense, but there's like the people who have the sort of like the superhero-y eyes, right? With like the thing, right? Like that kind of stuff. It's like a mix of fun also. The video game hands. Right?
Well, so our goal, and we felt like no project was doing this, was we wanted a collection that people could see themselves in. And so we saw that a little bit with CryptoPunks. You know, I got into XPunks where people picked out individual traits. I wear a hat, my CryptoPunk wears a hat. I have a beard, my CryptoPunk is a beard.
Okay, really quickly, we can very easily show this. Why did I buy Punk Ape Strong? I literally went down the list and I own a striped shirt like that. And I was like, that dude looks like, that literally was my decision.
There you go.
And I still, at the moment, when Ashley and Borbecki and, you know, like Jason the Ape, the Hustle House Baron, like who have known Baron for years, I met Borbecki more recently, and they're both talking to me about the IP, and it didn't fully click yet. I was starting to understand it, but I got lucky that the ape I picked was actually good for the IP side of things, because I see apes that I think are cool now, and I think they're not good for the IP side of things, because you can't make like cartoons of them talking properly when their mouth is like always like, you know, or whatever, right? So I started now looking at NFTs, picking them up through a different lens, right? It's interesting. Oh, there's Pamela's in the chat, by the way. She's got a really cool Reaper full body of her World of Women. Yeah, I'm excited for the reveal. So I have a question too. Yeah. So zoom into any of the people who are holding something like their camera or the video game thing. How did you guys must have added more than just like the basic layers, because for example, if you just go basic layers, then somebody who has really dark skin might have really light hands holding their camera, right? Yeah. So that must have been actual programming that went into some of this, right?
We quickly realized why no one's done a project like this.
Yeah,
because it takes a lot. It took us full-time artists 11 months, full-time. You know, it took us over 6 weeks just to get the hair right on one, to get like, okay, here's our stylistic hair. And, you know, I just could not be happier. Like the details and nuance. And like you were saying, we wanted to have people see themselves in these in two ways. One, through physical likeness, hairs, skin tones, etc. And the other is people identify with the way they nerd out, right? Like, you could be, I was going to say guy. Even less.
I did the physical things. It was like surface with my ape, but I'll show my daughter the different, obviously, is it okay? My daughter looks nothing like this, right? But this was her favorite of all of the Fame ladies I owned, and she named it Frankie Fame. And like we had this whole thing, right? And it's you just, when you find something you like it, you just fall in love with what it is, right? And you know, I think it's just a really cool thing. And for example, like, you know, I'm just looking at this through the lens of my kids, looking at through my lens, and I can just see that. Like, I can't wait to see the reveal. Can't wait to see what's going on.
I'm so excited. Yeah. It's been 11 months of I'm so proud of this. Our artist is on vacation, first vacation she's taken 11 months. She absolutely crushed it. And the details, like every eye set is a 1 of 1. So we actually did a sub generation for every eyes. So each nerd has their own eyes. So we could theoretically do a faux retinal scan and know exactly which nerd you have.
No way. That's really cool. Yeah. So I can imagine derivatives, all sorts of weird things, like where, you know, you wear a mask, you wear a costume, but you know which one it is from that costume.
Exactly. Yeah.
There's like contextual issues. You know, what's really funny? There's totally like an aside, but really interesting. Like what happens when there's context, right? Mm-hmm. I looked at a picture from the summit on my Google Photos, and it was, and I can actually, I was going to share that tab really quick.
Yeah, go for it.
We're kind of running out of time, but okay, here. Yeah, I'll remove this one. But so what's really crazy is, it's crazy because it's a robot. If it's human, it's really easy, right? I see you wearing a certain shirt. even if you block your face and I hung out with you all day, you take a picture, I see a picture of you and I go, that's probably Saul because he was wearing that shirt that day. And, you know, the skin tone, the different other features and things, like I might recognize that it's you, even if you cover your face, right? It's like the funny superhero thing. Like somehow
the Clark Kent.
Yeah. Like, you know what? That's my joke with my kids. You want to see my Superman impression? You know,
I'm using that.
Do it. It's awesome. Kids love it the first time, and then you just keep doing it because you're a dad. And that's just what you have to do. But what's crazy is I looked at a picture. I was gonna send a friend of mine a picture of a whole crew of people that was there with we had the step and repeat, and we had cut out faces of some apes, and every single person had their face blocked with the ape. And then in the section, and then I sent him a screenshot of the whole Google Photos thing because it showed everybody's face on the side, showing their actual faces on the side to like attribute to the people. Because even though their faces were completely blocked, Google knew exactly who it was based on the other pictures that we had of them, because of the shirt, because of the location, because of everything else, right? So the context is really cool. So you can do things with the eyes, like you're saying, like I can make a punk ape strong mask for my nerd. What are you calling them?
We're calling them nerds. Yeah.
Nerds. So I can make a punk ape strong mask for my nerd, but if the eyes are poking through, you know exactly which nerd.
So and here's where things get interesting, right? As we talk more about digital identity, we move closer, depending on how you want to define the metaverse, but clearly people are going to have some way to represent themselves visually, probably avatar based. And
it's not always direct, right? Like I think, like for example, you showed the stuff. I really love ones, like for whatever reason, I love ones that have like the tie-dye shirts and things. Never in my life have I worn a tie-dye shirt. I probably never would. Everything I own is black with red or white on it, right? That's punk rocky stuff.
That's the beauty of it is you get to define who you want to be, right? So you can choose those traits. They can be like you, or you can say, hey, this is who I've always wanted to be.
Yeah. Well, and also people have different personalities online, maybe they feel they're different internally than they might feel they are out on the outside, right? And that's part of the beauty of the internet. You can, and I think, you know, not to dive into any things, like we've in the last few months, there's been a couple times where I've had to talk to the community about maybe a certain person's behavior. Somebody comes in, an outsider or an insider or something, and something happens. And we have a really kind of insane strict thing. Like part of why we love this space is the free speech and the whatever you can do and the uncensorability and the immutability and stuff like that. Awesome. But when you're here, you're in my house, right? And you're not on the street protesting and doing whatever the fuck you want. You're at my house. And if you're at my house, you have to treat everyone with respect, right? And I believe in this industry, if we want it to be really mainstream and actually do the wonderful things that we say this industry can do, the borderless global opportunities that can only come in this industry because we're basically, you know, turning those things off online, then you have to, at least the leadership in this industry has to make every single person feel welcome. And part of the problem with some of this stuff is the fact that there isn't representation, right? It's why we all loved World of Women or Fame Lady Squad, even if we weren't women. But for me, it was because I could finally show my daughter something that's not
right. It wasn't Alien Boys, it wasn't Yetis, it wasn't, you know, like it wasn't the pirates. So many just male-centric ones.
Of course. And then even the apes, like there's like, you know, the pink hair, but it still kind of just looks like a dude. It's the same person, right? Like, it's like me throwing on a wig. Right. So so that really got me excited, and what you're doing, I think, is obviously very, very thoughtful. So that's really cool.
So we had a 10-person trait diversity board where we recruited different people from different backgrounds, different gender identities to help run things by them, because we didn't want to make executive decisions. We wanted to have people who represented different cultures and races give their opinion.
Yeah. And I think that's really, really cool. Well, one of my friends, you know, and it might be a friend, so they're blowing some smoke at me or whatever. They were like, you know, your conference was really diverse for a crypto conference. I'm like, you had to qualify it, right? we're building for a world where everyone's supposed to feel welcome, everyone's supposed to participate, right? A world where half the people, maybe slightly more than half the people, are women, right? And then not even going into races or skin tones or other attributes that make every single person different, right? And she was saying this to me, being genuine, right? And I was like, we could do so much better. Look around. Right now, there's a panel on the stage. There's 5 dudes on it, right? And if not all of them, they're all pretty much like 90% white dudes. They look like us, right? Like, so we could do so much better. And that I love that you guys are so thoughtful there, because it's like, there's been times where like purposely make an effort and then it feels like weird. And that was the 9th LA Blockchain Summit. So like, it can be weird if you like force it. I even had a fun talk. Actually, I literally sent a picture to Wendy and a friend of hers, Wendy O, and she does the YouTube videos. If you know,
I know Wendy.
And her friend was really anti women in crypto stuff. She's like, why do we have to separate it and call it a women in crypto thing? And so, and I agree with that. But in the past, there was a group called Women in Crypto, like a big nonprofit organization. We gave them free space at our conference. They did their thing. And there's, and what was funny is I sent Wendy a picture of me talking to her and her friend. And I was like standing in the middle, like with my arms up, like, cause I talk like this, I get excited. And I just sent them the picture without, the only word I put was mansplaining. And I sent it to them. But the thing is, I getting back to what you were saying, I think that you're doing a really great job, and your community it seems incredible.
Someone commented in one of our internal group chats today. She was like, she said her daughter, 17, came into the room and said, "Mom, wait, there are women talking on your crypto spaces. This is the first time I've heard that." And I was like, yes, I love that we have people, sad that that's the case. When she hears her mom on spaces, it's always been, but was proud of it.
It reminds me, actually, it was probably quarantine time. So 2 years ago, we had Hester Pierce. I use Hester Pierce, I think is how you pronounce it, but everyone reads it as Pierce. Crypto mom. She's the SEC regulator that actually knows what she's talking about when it comes to crypto. And she was being interviewed by Laura Shin. And my daughter was hanging out with me in the room, just off screen all day long. And sometimes I went on screen to do things and whatever, but most of the time she's hanging out. And she literally was drawing a picture of them doing their panel because she was so like excited that it was 2 women that were on the thing, right? And at the time, my daughter, this was a couple of years, my daughter's like 6 years old, right? Like, how cool is that? Yeah. Like, we didn't have that, or at least didn't have that growing up in the world. And if you were, anything other than, again, like a dude, and it's more and more happening now. It's not the best. Hold on. I'm going to share my screen just because we're going to end this in a second. So Jess, you just asked, where's the live streaming? It's streaming live where you're watching it right now on YouTube and Lunar Crush and everywhere else. But if you go to blockchainbooze.io and you're already there, Jess, when we're done and we turn this off, the YouTube video will stop. And then people will be able to turn on their camera and do all that. So I'm going to just add this to the stream really quick. I'm just gonna scroll through because I probably should scroll down. Just, I guess I shouldn't even do this right now because there's my ape being a creep in the bushes over here. There's Wendy. And where's the picture of me mansplaining? There we go. There's me mansplaining to them what's going on here. But I wanted to show some of the crew here. I think I saw. By the way, the first time I actually hung out with Baron Davis for real after knowing him from kind of LA VC stuff was at VCon.
I mean, growing up, I've lived in the Bay Area, Golden State Warriors. Baron Davis was the man.
Yeah. And now he's the man. Hey, here we go. Talk about blockchain and booze community. David Rankin. You might not know this, Saul, but David is one of our earliest community members. And when we used to actually use a different system that logged the number of minutes people participated, he logged the most minutes of anyone who ever did. Like 15,000 minutes. He's a master of metaverses and metaverse land and stuff like that. And so he was my wingman on Blockchain and Booze, both nights where we did the live Blockchain and Booze sessions. So this was them. There's Timed. So you guys know Timed in the chat right now.
Yeah.
This is him right here. Look at this, dude. It's so cool. So we got a lot of cool stuff. And some dude who may or may not be timed even showed up in a bear suit during one of the sessions. We'll find that. But I'm going to go through this and show you guys a lot of pictures and share the pictures with you. Here's, the Nifty Spirits crew. I had to do a funny looking, if you were a punk rocker growing up, every hardcore band had some weird picture where the members of the band would like get on one knee and do like the we're tough kind of hang session. I was trying to recreate it, but I look like a goofball because I'm wearing a suit. Just fun stuff. This was a really cool panel with Mike Johns, but we're going to do a session where we actually go through the photos, and I'll be sharing it with everyone publicly very, very soon. But we're just getting them into our Google Photos right now and doing all that. So data, you're in the middle of the mint right now. Before we leave, is there anything you want to leave everyone with? I love the detail we got here. We're going to have to do like a follow-up, and I will definitely next week share the reveals that I got with the community.
I want to see what you get. I want to see your daughter's reaction too.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome. Maybe I should wait until. Is there? It's just gonna start revealing when I.
It's just gonna start revealing it probably at 9.
Maybe I was gonna say like maybe I wait until they get off of school tomorrow, but
I mean you could not click the refresh button on OpenSea.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe I'll do that just so I can get their live reaction.
Yes.
The kids' live reaction,
Yeah.
But I don't think that happened. Okay. We'll talk about this in the chat. I'm gonna turn it on when we're done. But Jess just said that the Winklevoss has just lost all of their money. But I don't think that happened. I thought that was that Gemini, the people who they were using for the Earn product, which is the digital currency group people, Barry Silbert. Anyway, if the Gemini twins actually lost their money, then we got a problem. I think they should have, even in today's market, a few $100 million worth of.
I see some headlines here. Winklevoss faithful have a $700 million problem in Genesis Halt.
Woo.
I heard a couple of someone else was filing for bankruptcy. It's grim.
So it is grim. And something I do want to say to everyone, I meant to post like a video about this earlier today because I was so tired earlier this morning, and I think everyone is tired. And one thing I just want to say to everyone is like, we talk about DEXs on here all the time, right? And I talk about decentralization and not to use centralized exchanges or keep your money on centralized exchanges and all that bullshit, right? We're in this space. We all talk about it, but we don't always do it. And some of our friends, a lot of our friends didn't do that. Now is not the time to dunk on them. They learned their lesson, right? Like, don't be like, bro, you should have used a hard wallet or a different wallet or a hard wallet, whatever. Like, now is not the time. Like, they just got screwed, and so many people lost their money. And I think so many people are taking the conversation into kind of like, this is a learning opportunity. It is, but like the people who got hit learned already. You don't need to tell them.
They had they're licking their own wounds. Yeah.
Yeah. And then and there will be a time, and there's probably a good way to do it versus a bad way. I'm just seeing so many people like dunking on each other on Twitter, and it really makes me mad because like those are all those people who lost are people that we all onboarded and convinced crypto was a good idea over the last couple of years. Or
they needed a middle person to help facilitate.
And so, don't dunk on those people. And then also let's try to collectively put all of the energy on the blame on the bad actors that did it. The way, people went after the Bernie Madoff, the way people went after the people who basically, created the mortgage crisis and things like that. Those weren't regulatory problems. They were greed problems from really bad people, right? And if it was in crypto, if it was in banks, it wouldn't make a difference, right? But everyone wants to talk about the crypto side of it. I understand they're going to do that, but like, I want everyone to just like double down on the, like, let's punish these bad actors, because we're going to be here. Like, this isn't going to make the crypto industry go away. And I think Jess said we might see 10K Bitcoin. You know what? Like, in 2 years, we're gonna be looking at 10K Bitcoin like it was a blessing, right? Right now, it hurts, right? For a lot of people, if you need that money, if you're living off that money, if whatever, right? So just and give people some love, because it's fucking hard, even when it's just on paper. Like, it's hard for folks. We're not like, most people haven't gone through the cycle a few times. Like some of our, some people, I'm thinking about myself, who are like jaded and calloused and like go like, easy come, easy go, whatever. Like, I'm also not ever leveraged, and I'm not a trader. So to me, it's like,
even if you've invested money, you can lose, right?
Yeah.
It's still a stressor. You knew it could go to zero, but it doesn't mean it doesn't stress you out.
Yeah. And so I just wanted to throw that before we end.
Yeah.
But data, data, we already did this earlier, but DataNFT _ on Twitter. What's the Nerd Collective Twitter account?
I'd go to nerdcollective.xyz is our website.
I shared that earlier. I'll put that in the chat.
And what I would leave people with is, building on what you said, I'm dedicating myself and trying to focus on the people doing great things in the space. And whether you think that's me or not, that's fine. But I'm putting all my dollars and energy behind people who are doing the awesome things, because I think the best way to change the narrative is to not just punish the people doing the bad stuff, but to amplify the people who are doing the good stuff. And the headlines always talk about the bad stuff. And so I'm one of the next things I'm doing is I'm trying to flip the script on LinkedIn and take LinkedIn by storm and change the minds of my community there.
I like that, because what's funny is LinkedIn is such a shit product, but it's such a undervalued product, especially in our community. What's also just there's a total aside. This is a nerd thing that I'm a nerd for analytics and data and things like that. And I know you are. It's literally your name. But people don't realize the highest click rate, engagement rate is email. And so many, if you don't do this already, you've got to do this. So many projects, it makes me mad. So many projects don't have a way to just subscribe to like an email list. Yeah. And what's crazy is that you post something on Twitter, it's basically gone the next day. So you have to post multiple times a day. Sometimes you retweet your own tweet from the day before to make sure people the next day see it, and all those things, right? And then you post something on LinkedIn, it's there for maybe a few days, a week. It gets a certain amount of love after 2-3 days. But emails, especially like subscribed emails. I know Astro just said cold emails king. Yeah. I can have a whole hour talking about email strategies for sales and things like that. But the Ben, challenge accepted. But literally though, grab people's emails, like community wise. I know Discord is also a place. Yeah. I told you, I forgot to say this publicly, but I rejoined. I used Discord for the first time in probably over 6 months just to join the Nerd Collective Discord, and I spent like an hour cleaning out my Discord, deleting all of the channels that weren't all the servers that weren't like a DJH portfolio company or something goofy, right? Like I think
it's real. Here's what I would challenge you is, next time you have a question about something nerdy, right? Come into the Discord and ask it and see what happens. Yeah. There's just
that's a part of what I loved about your Discord too. You have the different channels, and we're so over time, but you have the different channels for different things, right? Like, and you ask people, what are you nerding about? Like nerding about music, about this, about that, about whatever. What do you are you a new parent? Are you a parent? Like, and I jumped into the parent chat, not thinking I would even have the conversation, but somebody like asked a question, and I was like, oh yeah, I remember that, and I started engaging, because I'm like, somebody like, it's we all have different community sub-communities within communities, and I just love the way you guys organized it. And let's sign off. What I'm going to tell people is Nerd Collective, check them out. By the way, if you're a startup building anything in the space, I don't care what the markets are looking like. I'm not investing in companies for flipping things or doing anything in the short term. DGH invests in companies that are long-term, people who are going to be around 10 years from now. So if you are launching a company or doing anything or thinking about launching a company, come hang out with me, talk to me, go to drapergorenhome.com, submit your pitch there. Our team will look at it, but also just bug me personally, like hit me up on Twitter and be like, hop on a Zoom right now if you see that I'm active. And that's how I've met so many awesome people in the space. So let's hang. For those of you who are in the chat, I'm going to turn on the ability to turn on your cameras and do all that. For you, those of you who aren't, go to blockchainbooze.io. It'll redirect you. If it's your first time there, you'll have to sign up to a DGH events account so that I can get your email. But so that you can be updated when we do new Blockchain Booze episodes, new conferences and things like that. I see Christina hanging out back there, and Ben and Jess and Timed and the whole crew. So thank you so much. Thanks, Data. It was so awesome hanging with you. I appreciate your time, and looking forward to getting the update next time. And see you all in the chat right now. All right.